Today I'm here in Varginha and I came to visit a friend I haven't seen in a long time. Wellington Martins, I'm here at his house. How are you, Wellington?
Welcome.
It's been a long time since we've seen each other. And he's going to tell us some stories about the Varginha case and some other stories as well, because he was involved back then in '96 and he's still at it to this day. Behind the scenes, but he knows a lot. So come with me after the intro. So Wellington, how are you about the research, right? I just have to make a side note. I can't help myself. Just look at the guy's Jeep, right?
This is our UFO hunter.
License plate from Varginha. Ah, proof, it's Varginha, Varginha. Got it? Look, here it is. Look, Equipe Terra, which is ET from Varginha. Show this.
Jeeper.
And look how cool this is.
Man, this is the original 69, right?
There's even ESA here. Look, because Wellington, he was in the Army.
From 83 in communications.
Right? From 83. So how's your life going?
Look, I was away for a while, right? But always keeping up, okay? And you know very well that Varginha, the Varginha case, it's a patchwork, right? You put it together, listen to someone talking, do some research here and there. So we have a lot of things, and you guys, for sure, your team still has a lot to discover out there.
To do some digging, right? To do some digging.
Right? Not just here, but other cases you guys research, right? But I want to invite you to, let's go. Let's head over to our bunker, please. It's an area we have there to welcome friends and gather, right? And talk about ufology, because today you're talking to, look, a ufologist.
Do you still use it? Still use it?
Every now and then we do, yeah. It's Hopcast 14.
Look, he's still an athlete.
This is our place, right? For us to talk a little about the phenomenon, right? Because it's a phenomenon that excites people, right? That's right. And to make it clear, I can even tell you that the UFO phenomenon here in Varginha didn't start with the 1996 case. I started in 1982 at the old Savapa, right? The president then was Birajara.
So for those who don't know, Sevapa's president was Birajara.
Birajara.
There's also Jose, who's another lawyer.
Yeah, at the time it was a group of 15 people. He was a doctor. It was Geraldo, Mr. Jose Julio, who was Birajara's father, a great parapsychologist. On Saturdays, we used to split the time there. The first part was parapsychology and then ufology. So there were always some little arguments between each other, right? But I'll even show you here.
But in '82, then you got into this scene.
Me, Paranapiazinho, right? Look here so you can see.
Look, there's proof here, huh? The proof is right here, the real deal. Look.
Varginha isn't just about the case, Varginha. This is our ID card.
Here's the signature of Birajara Franco Rodriguez.
That's right. And we also have, in this case, I was a consultant for UFO magazine. UFO, here. Também aqui.
Ufology seminar.
This one from '82, right?
Birajara's group too.
Birajara's. Okay? And there are a few more here too. Parapsychology, this is interesting too. I learned a lot there with them in the field of parapsychology, Dr. Julio, right? These are lectures I gave in Paraná.
Okay, cool.
So that's it. So this is important, especially for the newcomers, right? Those who are just starting to study ufology. The Varginha case today, I don't know if it can surpass Roswell, right? Or if it can match it, but I think it surpasses it.
So among those old cases that happened here in Varginha, in the region, which one could you highlight?
Look, I remember a case, the Ibaipindi case. I think you've already worked on that case.
The one from Imbornal, right?
Imbornal, where the hunter went out. He, his satchel, the dog, and a gun, a cartridge belt.
I think it was Arlindo Gabriel Leal.
Arlindo Gabriel dos Santos. Ibaipindi is a nearby city here, towards São Lourenço. He went out to hunt, okay? And at a certain moment, he saw an object coming down. He says it's like a spinning top, right? And it was releasing smoke far away like that. He got closer, saw another one, and got scared. The dog ran, and he ran too. In short, he was missing for a while. The family searched for him and found him lying on the ground near a little stream. They picked him up and took him. It was raining then, right? He showed up all dirty, right? And that's fine. Then, as his memory started coming back, he said, "Where's my imbornal?" Actually, imbornal, here in Minas, right? We're from Minas. The imbornal is where you carry your food, bread, and coffee.
It's a cloth bag.
That's right, made of cloth, right? Okay? He got worried. Where's my imbornal? He had it there. Look, at that time he took, I think, 3 photos, we can take a look later, with a camera called Taquiña. With this Taquiña camera, you'd take a photo, drop the camera off at the lab during the Kodak days, and leave it there. Remember? They'd develop and print the photos for you.
And you'd get another camera to look at.
As incredible as it may seem, in these photos there are 3 images, right? They're a bit blurry, okay? But that's not all. It didn't end there. So at that time, it was a little before I joined. It was in 82. I think this case was in 79. Birajara heard about it and went there. When he got there, they started doing research, right? Together with him. And in Bornal, they couldn't find it. Coincidentally, when Birajara arrived, they found Imbornal fallen, covered in mud. I think the ants had already eaten everything, maybe even the bread. Then they took it and washed it. When they washed Imbornal, some things started to appear. It's a shame I don't have it here. I have a replica. It's with Carlos Machado, okay? With Carlos's work there. He keeps it for Ava, our friend. There's a replica there. Could it be a stain? No. There were some inscriptions.
Some characters.
Some characters, right? And then Birajara sent it to one place, then another. Some thought it was Arabic writing, Aramaic, so it ended up being a bit undefined, but it's a very interesting case. And others too. Here in our region, sightings were very common in the past, mainly because our region is known for coffee, right? If you want to show it, here we are, the coffee capital, coffees of Brazil. Varginha today is one of the world's biggest coffee producers, right? And it was very common at the time to see lights and manifestations in the coffee plantations. I don't forget, and it sticks with you, that in Paraguaçu, it was widely talked about that people saw a saint in a coffee plantation. There was a pilgrimage.
There was all of that. Was it really a saint or some luminous being, right? And now there are luminous beings appearing in Claudio, right?
Exactly.
And in the past, sometimes people would interpret it through a religious lens.
Yeah, in our research at the time, that's how it was. They didn't have any idea. We even used to comment about it, like, you have a tribe there in the Amazon. A helicopter lands and that tribe, they're going to say, they came down from the sky, it's God bringing the rabbit.
Right? On a noisy bird.
Noise, right? So it's very interesting. Besides that, there were many manifestations. Even the way I got interested in ufology was very interesting. I used to live downtown here in the city of Varginha. I still remember Silva Bittencourt Street downtown, close to the cathedral. My house had a slab I used to climb and sit on, watching the sky, which I always enjoyed. It's interesting. If you want to see it, you have to look up. If you look down, you won't see anything, right? And one day, looking at the horizon toward the Santana neighborhood, where there used to be a company called Polo Film in the direction of Tres Corações, I saw red balls dancing. What is that? What a thing. And how old was I? 10 years old. Wow, I thought it was wonderful. I was amazed. Then I started to buy what? I would read Planeta magazine.
So if you were 10, what year would that have been, more or less?
Man, 10 years old, I was born in 1964.
So 1974.
1975, right? I bought this Planeta magazine, so you don't even need to say anything, right? I think I have one here. Look, is it Planeta? Because this here is, like it says here, a rare find, right? Well, it was a UFO.
And this is Planeta. This one is Planeta. Here, look, it's from Editora 3. Look here for you. Look here, look here.
That's when I started. Look how it is.
And it's Planeta. It's Planeta. It's here in this part. Look, Planeta.
A jump from this. This is old, huh? Old. 84? 84. So at that time, this magazine it was a topic because it was a very controversial topic. It was a topic that look here so you can see how interesting, coincidentally, what I found here. It was a very controversial topic at the time. Look at this here.
It's a photo that was taken by an American sheriff, right?
Exactly. Look at this. It looks like a
64.
Also, yeah. So since it was a controversial topic, we didn't talk to everyone. We would go, and then if the person was interested. But then later I had another manifestation. After moving to a different neighborhood, I lived in the Pinheiros neighborhood, and by then I was already 15 years old. I had a snack and everything, watched TV, and went to my room. I lay down And after about an hour or so back then, I used to listen to a little radio, a tiny car radio, and it didn't have FM. It was interesting. I'll never forget, I listened to a radio station. I don't know how old you are. It was Mundial FM 860 from Rio de Janeiro, AM, okay? It was the station that was booming, and I was listening. Suddenly there was a flash at the window, and I was like this, frozen. I couldn't scream. The bedroom door was closed. And that light came in, a light came into my room like this, And I saw a tall entity about 1.8 meters white, and two like this, and two smaller ones here, light blue. And it just kept glowing. And I tried to scream, but I couldn't. But they were really, really calm. I said, my God, what could this be? When I saw it, it went like this. Shh. After that, I remember nothing. I woke up the next day with a slight headache. I stayed like that for quite a while. Then I told my mom, and she said, no, my son, it's nothing. Look at that. 15 years old? I was about 15 or 16, okay? So those were the manifestations, those two. But going back, answering your question, Varginha, in UFO case studies, it's not just from 96 onwards. It's important to make that clear, okay? So we already have here, some people say, oh, so there's already a portal. Personally, I respect that, but I don't work along those lines. If there's a portal, let's respect that, but I can work and do research in a down-to-earth way, right?
There was a friend, he's already passed away, a friend of ours, Simão Bichara.
Geraldo Simão Bichara.
This case was sensational.
Geraldo, first, where did I meet Geraldo? Geraldo was from the Metal Workers Union. My father was an executive at a company, and we had a union here where you had a doctor, dentist, barber, and he was a barber. He started cutting my hair when I was 12 years old, and we developed a very strong friendship. And he was very discreet, always talking. And then we started talking about the subject. That's when I started going to his house, and later he also joined Chavapa. He was also one of the people who, when I went to Chavapa, I was working at Itaú Bank on the night shift in processing. And there was a friend from Itaú, Geraldo, a Mason, and he said, hey, Leo, we have a group. So I said, from Freemasonry? No, it's not Freemasonry. I'm not a Mason, okay? And they're our friends, right? And I felt it would be nice. You're someone who likes the subject. So I got to the meeting on Saturday, Birajara. I said, wow, Birajara. Birajara graduated with my dad-in-law in college. I already knew him. I'm Estevan's son. I said, oh, okay. And I met Bichara. Oh, Bichara is here. Geraldo Bichara. He was my barber. So it was a group of 15 people, a select group, right? I went to get a little water. But there was a doctor there, I think Dr. Leila, who was a biologist at the zoo. She was my biology teacher.
Leila Cabral, was she your biology teacher?
My teacher at Pio Tucin. I don't remember if Leila was part of the group, but in short, it was a group like exclusive. It was like the SETI group here, which was more select, but it was a group where we studied poltergeist phenomena. I don't know, I can even talk to you about it. Have you ever seen a poltergeist phenomenon? Yes.
I have.
I had the opportunity to come to Tres Corações at the time. It was Geraldo Bichara, and I think it was Binahara, and Mr. Julio too. It's a quick story. It started happening in a house. Stones, rice, beans. They would turn to stone, and the group was called to see what it was. And things were moving, right? And when we got there, the woman said, look, things catch fire. Some things catch fire. But how so? No, we have clothes. They catch fire in the wardrobe. Oh, really? I remember that, man. I got to the sink. Geraldo was shorter. He arrived. There was a towel, something wet. I saw a fire coming out, a blue thing coming out, right? Then I pulled Professor Julio away, who has been Ahara's father. He came over and did the job. And then what happened? This is a very interesting thing in the poltergeist phenomenon, okay? Normally the phenomenon happens with young people, girls or females under 15 years old who are entering puberty. Incredible, right? And then the question he asked, do you have any? Oh yes, there's someone. Let's give her a name, Joninha. Oh, Joninha, what's up with her? Oh, she's in the room. So Professor Julio, the father of Binahara, who was our teacher there, he said, look, can I talk to her? Sure. He started talking to her. We said goodbye, and he said, let's go. That was the first visit. He prayed that kind of thing because he was a spiritist, right? There were always some things. Binajara wasn't like that, but that's okay. And on the road, he said, the one causing it is the girl. But how is that, Prof? That psychobioplasmic energy, it was so strong that she was making things happen, right?
Without being aware that she was doing it.
The next day, Senior Julio and another woman, I don't know, it was another lady who was also involved, went to visit to bring things because they lost clothes, they lost food. It was something absurd. The poltergeist phenomenon is complex. So, what was the idea? They went to the priest. No, let's take her there. There it is again. Tres Corazones, right? Everything happens in Tres Corazones, right? They took the girl and brought her to a convent there with some nuns, okay? I don't remember the name. Tres Corazones. Let's take the girl there so she can stay for a few days. The phenomenon stopped happening in the house. It stopped, it ceased. Then, since they did, they organized a clothing and blanket donation drive because they lost everything, and they took it to a certain room there with the little sisters. Can you believe that? So, this is a very interesting case. It should be documented there at Birajara's office. I don't have this one anymore, or the others either.
So, in Tres Corazones, we're talking about Geraldo Simão Bichara. It happened in 62, that abduction inside the
notorious ESA. Sergeant of Arms School, in 62, he was on guard at the cavalry. He saw a light. He tried to shoot at it. At that time, it wasn't the FL-762, it was another weapon. It jammed, he couldn't do it. According to his testimony, and he also told me this, there was a commotion, he escaped on horseback. Because I don't know if you know the ESA. I'm not sure if the cavalry sector near the polo field is still there. The horses ran out, that confusion, then they arrived, and he was just standing there. Unbelievably, as far as I remember, he ended up in jail because I said, he's acting strange, he drank, but he didn't usually drink. After what happened, I'll talk about it. He started drinking, then he became an alcoholic, and it was a situation that didn't go anywhere. They covered it up, right? So, Tres Corazones and Isa, okay, yeah, okay. If you go look it up, that's what we know, what we don't know.
So, like, ISA is always involved in something, right? And the Varginha case was no different, right? And back then, right, during the Varginha case, when it all came down to it, what do you remember? That January of 90?
It's interesting. Let's even move over here, and it's raining. By coincidence, it really did rain back then. Yeah.
It's raining there.
Yeah, today is the 20th.
Today is January 23rd.
2026.
30 years since the case.
30 years since the case. So I'll give you a summary of my case. At that time, I lived in the city of Ponta Grossa, Paraná, and worked at the document conference Xerox as the commercial and technical supervisor. My wife's family is from here in Varginha, so I used to bring my kids and my wife to spend the end of the year here, and then we would go back. When I came back, I brought them, okay, and then I returned to Paraná, all right? And I came to pick them up. On the day it happened, which was Saturday, the 20th, I was just going about my day. There was a heavy rain, but before that, on Saturday, after my car had a problem, I took it to the mechanic, which is still there today, near the roundabout that goes to Mariella Park, because I needed to travel on Sunday. It was Saturday, yes, the 20th. So at that moment, I didn't know anything about the case, okay? I visited my friend Geraldo, whom I always used to visit until I stopped. I think I also visited Benajara then, since we had a great relationship, and I often stopped by during the week before Saturday. All right, but at that intersection, when I left the intersection, I saw a truck, a Mercedes parked. I've always liked military vehicles, you know that. You guys are proof of that, right? So I grabbed my camera, and while I was driving, I took a picture, took two. In the second one, you can see the truck, the white VW van, and the truck was running. Intersection. Let's say it's just over 1,000 meters from there to Humane's Hospital. Saturday, a little after 2, what was that truck doing there? It was an intersection with nothing, yet it was there. I took that picture, saved it, and then on Sunday, I left early and headed out via the Fernão Dias Highway. What I saw were fallen trees because it looked like a hurricane had passed through, right? I left, I didn't know. Only after I saw the report on Fantástico, I think it was about 2 weeks later, when you came, the team came, the CT group, that's when I found out. I called Bichar and said, "What's going on, man? Things are heating up here, huh?" This happened, but I believe I was there, man. I could have stayed, but yeah. And then, after I developed the film from the trips, which was back then.
It was a roll of film, right?
It was a roll of film, right? 36, 24. I had it developed, and I said, wow, that's strange. Then it kept going, kept going, kept going. Later, in the middle of the year, I went back, then I talked to Benahara and Geraldo, and I showed them these two photos.
Do you have the photos there? I do. You do. Can you show them?
Let me show you here. Look, by the way.
Okay. And what's interesting while he's getting the photos there is that during the investigation later we found out about a convoy that left ESA, right? And that caused all that activity there, picking up the creature in Manita, then took it back to ESA again. Yeah, you know the story. After that, from ESA, it went to Campinas, to Unicamp, right? And yes, according to the witnesses' descriptions, there were both modern trucks, like the 1418 truck with a camouflage troop tarp, as well as a beige combi van, right? That belonged to the intelligence personnel.
So, this here is a gift I'm going to give you, okay? I'll send everything later. So, for you, there are two photos. This clover leaf, if you want, we can film it. I took this first photo. I took this. To be clear, I knew nothing about the case. I took it because I like police cars. And for us here in the countryside, when you see an Army or Air Force helicopter, we get fascinated, right? And this one, look, this is one of the interesting photos. Look at the combi. That truck was running.
So, on the 20th, in those first few days, you had this sighting without making any connection at all.
Look at the fact. Look so you can see. We talked about ufology, which I really like, and this happened to me. Even today I say, wow. The mechanic might not have fixed my car. I could have left on Monday or Tuesday. Then I would have been part of it. Then I would be the eighth. The group of... But regardless of that, the group of 7 was... You came, right? You were very important during that phase. And you still are to this day.
And Chevapa, right? Because I remember that Birajara Franco Rodriguez, I think he was traveling to São Tomé. Then when he came back, he heard about the girl's case and started investigating. Did he ever hold any Chevapa meetings to discuss the case? I don't know.
I can't say that because I don't know, but I don't think it was through Tsavapa. Okay. There was UIC, the Ufological Association for Field Investigation. I also don't know if it was active, but I'm sure he contacted the people there, okay? I also don't know how Pacasini got involved in this. You should know. Yes, not how it happened, okay? But then he did the interview with the girls. He went to the site. Afterwards, I think Petri from Fantastico came, right? Yeah, Petri, right? Petri. And then everything started unfolding.
Now, but that's how it was. Then all the initial events happened. And I know, like you've already told me, but I want you to tell it here. For our audience, there was a certain moment during the course of the research when a doctor, Dr. Rocha, came to Brazil.
Rocha
came here and you followed this together with Biraja, his son.
How was it? Let's see. Dr. Rangele came after the case, right? I don't remember, 2004 if I'm not mistaken. And we received him. There at Birajara's office, it was me, Birajara's son, Augusto. I don't remember the name, okay? He spoke English very well and was fantastic, a fantastic person. He presented the material I had always read about him, about the implants, right? Actually, he worked more with chronology, right? He was a foot and hand surgeon, if I'm not mistaken. And he was a very, very charismatic person, you know, so we brought him, right? Why? What happened? Just to put together the timeline, I came back from Paraná in 2002, so this was in 2004. And back then, Birajara, Bichara, they had their own jobs, right? So whenever TV crews or teams from outside came, they would look for Elton here at my office, and he would handle it. So I used to go out with the people from Discovery, from Canada. Later, I have a video. I can show it to you so you can copy it, okay? We spent a day there filming, and when it was done, it turned out really cool. Why? We recorded on location. I have the footage. I'll show it to you later. And they took it, which is Discovery Kids. At the time, it was very, very famous and really popular, right? I also later received several TV crews. I got some people from Belo Horizonte, from Aviação Cipó, Toledo, okay? That one was cool. I also have it recorded there on a DVD that I'll give you guys so you can convert it, because it's on DVD, to turn it into digital media, right? And you authorize it, you're my friend, to share it, okay? Because otherwise, there's no point.
And it's just sitting there, right?
So make yourself comfortable. I just want you to give me a digital copy later, because actually this material, just to make a side note, I'm really good friends with Carlos Machado, Carlos Roberto Machado, who's an authority, our friend the biologist, who investigated the chupacabra, right? Look, we're well connected. He wrote this book, Olos de Dragão, okay? Which
is about the
chupacabra. Very serious research, us. I had the pleasure of being held by myself. And he also has, let's give Carlos some publicity here. Look, let me see. He has the DVD, or maybe it's already in digital media. Here, look, fantastico. This here is a research about the chupacabra's phenomenon, okay? Later, you guys can look it up. So we, as they say, we're not just in Varginha, right? We have this connection here, for example, that we're talking about. This is very interesting. When I lived in Curitiba, actually, my parents lived there. We also live a bit there and here. This is a lecture we gave in Castro. It's a city near Ponta Grossa. And before, look here, Grego, Toninho, Rafael Cury, Romeo, Carlos Machado, me, right? So we have Jaime Lauda, Jaime Lauda. Guy's a remarkable person. Jaime Lauda gave me so much material. He gave me a box. One day he came up to me. Today he's an astrologer, right? He's in Curitiba. Great Jaime, if you're listening, hugs. He gave me a box. What a load. I'm moving to another field. Why? No. He speaks very softly. Now, working in another field is your thing, man. Who did I leave this material for? When I lived in Ponta Grossa, I founded the GOOP, Ponta Grossa Ufology Group. I left it there for Juliano Hertz. It should still be there, but there's stuff. He needs to go there. So,
ufology. There are some things from Jaime there, some things from Jaime.
There are photos there, right? I think they're unpublished. Why? Hey, Edson, you put things together and share them. For example, I gave Carlos Machado the material I had with me because I think it needs to circulate. That's not what, I'll even say something here. That's not what we see today, okay? Edson, I've known him a long time, even back when he had more hair. Let's see. I'm still losing a little bit, but man, we don't have to be like that. We have to stop. Go ahead. It's just about adding up what gets divided, sharing it, especially with the new generation. Man, 30 years? Man, I was 31 years old, right, in this case, okay? So we have to spread the word, not let this flame die out. And once again, I want to congratulate you and your team, not just for the Varginha case, because the Varginha case,
it's one of many.
There are. You see, the Claudio case, what a wonderful thing, right? The case we're going to investigate, we're also going to Moretes with something that covered up a supposed object that fell there in the Serra da Gracionia, and so many others that we can investigate throughout the country, right?
I'd like to go back, sure, to that visit from Roger Lear. Okay, do you remember what he came here to do? Interesting, he came looking for another doctor, didn't he?
Look, it's something very... He came to talk to another doctor, but I don't remember the other doctor's name.
Dr. Over.
Over?
Over, he was an orthopedist.
Orthopedist. I also don't know what they talked about, but Dr. Roger, who was a leading authority at the time in implants, showed us some videos there. I even need to check if there are any videos, because I know he was filmed. Me, him, Birajara, all of us there. We picked him up at the airport. He was a leading authority. About implants, he told a story because he removed an implant from the foot of an American woman. And when he took it to those digital microscopes, it simply evaporated like self-destruction, something like that, like in Mission Impossible. Listen to this message, it will self-destruct, you know? Man, it's something like that. And what he talked about with Dr. Over going back was definitely something about the Varginha case, right? That stayed between them, okay?
Since you probably didn't find out, right? Because in the room it was probably just him.
For sure. Oh.
His son, the boy who was the translator, Dr. Over, and Dr. Roger Lear. They went to talk specifically about the orthopedic medical procedure that was done on the creature's leg because one of the creatures was injured. It was run over.
Run over by both.
Military police officers, and he wanted to know the details. Now, one detail, Roger Lear, when he returned to the United States, wrote a book called Crash in Brazil. It's a thin book. It was only published in English, but it contains all of this conversation between two doctors, and the orthopedist mentioned some very interesting details that prove that something, a very strange creature, was treated at the regional hospital.
And for sure, according to the orthopedist, this creature must actually have not only flesh, but also internal structures, bones, or something similar. But I don't.
But you didn't take part in the conversation. No.
I think I wasn't with them that day because he stayed for 3 days, okay? But he's an authority, and I can confirm that he came because I met him at the airport here. Me, him, and Birajara's son, whose name I don't remember.
At any point, you don't need to say the name if you don't want to, okay? But at any point, did you meet any member of the military who told you anything about the Varginha case?
Look, I'm going to tell you because you're a friend, okay? Because it's a delicate subject, okay? Of course, I met her, and that's not all. I have something that I'm going to pass on to you.